back in 2014, a little film kind of came out of nowhere-ish called Guardians of the Galaxy. No one really knew what it was. No one really was like, oh, I want a Guardians of the Galaxy film. But then that film turned out to be quite great. So, a number of films later, they have a sequel. 14th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Barry, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Garrett, and to everyone listening.
We're into the technically third year we've been doing this podcast.
Are we really? Wow.
Yeah, we started this in 2016.
Wow. I did not realize that. I thought it was a 2017 venture exclusively. That's impressive.
That's how many films there are.
Yeah, there's a lot. I suppose that's probably that's what we really learned here, is that there's a lot of these.
Yeah, because basically every time we come close to catching up, they continue to release new ones.
Yeah. We're getting closer and closer.
I think they've released 5. Like in the time, I think, since we started doing this, they've released 5 films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, it's intense.
So we're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, not 2, Volume 2 this time. What are the headline thoughts? What do you think?
So I remember coming out of this and liking it first time, thinking it was just a level or two below the original. And this is one that upon revisiting it, I was about the same on it. I think it does a lot of the same things well. I think it does some things even a little better, and I think it does a handful of things worse. So I don't think it's in the upper echelon where the original Guardians is on the MCU rankings, but I think it's in that high mid area.
I was pretty down on this when I saw it the first time.
Yeah, I was a little torn on it as I was watching it, and I thought they stuck the final act pretty well.
Yep.
Which meant as I came out of it, I was overall positive. And as I say, I had pretty much the exact same feeling watching it here. And yeah, like you say, a little down. I think part of my problem with this film, just to dive right into it, is I don't think it's as funny as the first one.
What I think the problem is, on that line, I think it tries to be funny in the same way. Like, Dave Bautista was, like, the breakout star of the first one, so it's, like, just more Bautista, I guess. Which is, like, he's good, but it's just... I don't think it's anything new, and I think that's that was my biggest problem when I saw this the first time, was it's a lot of the first one again. Yeah.
And Bautista actually was my kind of main grievance when I saw the film the first time, and stuck with me again the second time, is he funnily enough, kind of like in WWE, when something kind of catches on, they just double down on it and overdo it to the point that it's no longer fun. And I feel like Bautista's character was kind of amped up in some ways that I just didn't enjoy. A little too over the top, a little too frequent with the really hearty belly laugh.
Oh, the laugh! The laugh is particularly the worst bit. Yeah,
the laugh is grating, and they're doing the thing where he's obviously that was the big smash hit of the first film, was that he doesn't really interpret sayings and stuff, and he's maybe a bit socially awkward around people, and so they parlayed that into a sort of relationship in this film, which was interesting. But I think they just laid it on too thick, where he wasn't quite picking up the signals from his love interest there a bit, and it was a little too much. And so as you say, that and a couple of other ways, it did feel like it was kind of just doing an imitation.
Basically, I'm trying to put, like, what's the difference between Bautista in the first one and Bautista in the second one? One, like, it was unexpected in the first one, so, like, it's Bautista, so you don't really expect him to be funny, and you don't really, because, like, no one says Dave Bautista's... Well, actually, anyone that's watched WWE television knows he's an extremely charismatic man, but you don't expect him to be, like, haha, hilarious, and he was. But it was kind of like that understated, unexpected, like he was the butt of the joke rather than making the joke. And it did just feel like every word out of his mouth in this entire film is meant to be a punchline, and that's just far too much.
Yeah, it's they leaned into it, and I can understand that as well. I mean, look, that was a big talking point from the first one, but did not pay off in my opinion.
So the big crux of this, which actually I found this interesting rewatching this film this morning, because the first time I somehow missed like the thing that was in my head coming out of this film the first time was like, oh, there wasn't much of a through line through the whole film, and then watching it the end of the day, it's like, oh, family, yeah, they beat you over the head with that. How did I miss that?
I couldn't believe, like, they outright used the "we're not friends, we're family" line.
Yep.
Like, not only is that kind of on the nose anyway, but now we're in a post Fast and Furious world where they made that their thing.
Yes, they do.
It's like, geez, like that is really on the nose, and that's really, yeah. It's I mean, look, there's a million films that have this general vibe about it, but yeah, I forgot that Batista straight up says it in this.
Yeah, and it again, that just feels like that's kind of a lesson that was learned in the first film, wasn't it?
Yeah. We've been there. We did that. And another, and again, you know, Nebula at one point kind of says, "Oh, all you guys do is fight, blah blah blah." It's like, well, yeah, again, okay, we've seen the first film.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get along. That's kind of what their thing is. Like, we get it. It was a little bit of retreading over the same stuff. But again, it's like, I think, you know, whereas that first one was it was a weird mesh of a big budget blockbuster, but it was also experimental in its own weird way. It was these lesser known characters, sort of a weird director. James Gunn has a very weird kind of catalog behind him. He's not someone I would typically, prior to this, would have typically associated with big budget blockbusters. And you know, unusual cast, obviously, you know, taking on Batista and a few other people here or there who maybe stand out. And then this one is kind of the antithesis of that. It's like, it's a very safe film. A lot of the same people are involved, but they are just, they're hitting their checks. You know, they're checking off their list, rather, is probably what I meant to say, of all the things that they think made the first one good. And they made this one just, you know, kind of good.
And you're right, like the first one's like, oh, Chris Pratt's an unconventional lead, and like they cast Vin Diesel and Bradley Cooper in the film, but if you went into the film without knowing they're in it, you wouldn't know they're in it. Whereas this time it's like, hey, look, it's a Sly Stallone cameo.
Yeah, which is odd, and there's the whole thing about that you know, maybe he's in there because it's not just a cameo. Maybe they'll go somewhere with that. Subset of characters, because obviously it does kind of feel like a cameo when he's you know, he has his one brief scene in the beginning, and then he has one later on, and then he has a post-credit scene. But that post-credit scene kind of makes you feel like, they didn't get Sly Stallone in here just to do 5 minutes in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the Ravagers, as they are in this cinematic universe, I'm pretty much ignorant on this. This is just something I read after the fact, but I believe they are more or less the original composition of the comic book Guardians of the Galaxy. That specifically the characters shown in the post-credit scene, not the ones that are in the crux of the movie. But in Sly Stallone's post-credit scene, those characters are the original, or some of the original Guardians. So yeah, maybe they brought him on board because they might want him to helm a Marvel's version of the Expendables somewhere down the line. Which I don't know. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I don't know that I necessarily liked him in this film, but I think they could probably make that work if they got the right people involved.
So you figure that's more like spin-off fodder than sequel fodder?
Kind of, yeah. I think they, again, I was just doing some reading up after I watched this film last night, and I think they're like, hey, we're just putting it out there, you know, that's not us saying there's going to be a Ravagers film or anything, but and I think the exact quote would be that it was the next Guardians film. I think they confirmed is, you know, after Infinity War and after Avengers 4, which I guess is that still Infinity War Part 2? Or
It will have a different title, but yeah,
it'll have a different title. Okay, yeah,
the second part of that story.
So they confirmed Guardians 3 will be after the fourth Avengers film.
It has a 2020 release.
Yeah, the official line is that, you know, we're not saying they'll be in it, but if they are going to be in anything, they'll be in a sequel rather than a spin-off. But I thought that was interesting. You know, again, there's actually a lot of fan service in this movie. I think there's a lot of fan service in the first one as well, but lots of little cameos, lots of little people that I obviously, you can tell by the nature of the scenes, like the Stan Lee scene, is like, okay, I don't know who these guys are, but they are obviously meant to be someone. The Watchers, I believe they were, or something to that effect, isn't it? The big-brained characters. Yeah,
there's just some weird Marvel alien that might or might not mean anything. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe they'll come back again, like the Ravagers. Maybe we'll come back to it. Maybe we won't. We just put it out there for fun for now. Also, Adam Warlock in another post-credit scene. You know, for some reason, this was the film where they were like, "We're going to do 5." I don't really know why this one, but
they did. I like that whole subplot, like the whole like golden people, whatever they were called. That literally felt like if you took that out of the film, I think it's a better film. One, but like that felt we're setting up the next film. Especially, you know, the post-credit scene made that explicit. But, like, after seeing the post-credit scene, and you think about the role, like, that whole, like, side plot played in the film, it's just like, is that there entirely just to set up the third one?
Yeah, kind of. That's what I got from it. Yeah, especially with that scene.
Though you did mention the Stan Lee cameo. That technically, the cameo in this film confirms that it's the same Stan Lee in every film.
Yes, yeah, which was not a theory I was really aware of until this. But there you go. Hey, that's fun. I mean, whatever. So I guess that means he's the only character who spans the many different filmic universes.
Yes.
You know, and hey, you know, Marvel, the comic books, and even the cartoons back in the day. I mean, Marvel have done their share of dimension hopping.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, Stan Lee, he's seen the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, and he's seen the Iron Man, and was he in Blade? I'm sure he was.
Probably. He was in the X-Men.
Yeah, I actually can't remember if he was in Blade. Maybe, I mean, that might have been a time before that was really a thing.
Was X-Men the first one?
Blade, X-Men would have been 2000.
So was that the first one Stan Lee was in?
Perhaps, yeah. Because I do believe he has been in basically all of them since then, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So, yeah, I'm actually going to look this up right now on air, because I don't want to leave the listeners hanging.
He was also in Big Hero 6.
Is that a Marvel movie, or is that just him being in there for funsies?
That's a Marvel property, yeah.
Is it really? I actually haven't seen that yet, and I know it's supposed to be great, and I do mean to get to it. I thought that was just a Disney thing.
Because it is like made by the Disney Animation Studio, but it's a Marvel property.
There's like an article here. Which Marvel movies have not included Stan Lee cameos, and why? It appears to be some kind of forum thread. The poster says, I recently saw Fantastic Four 2015, and I noticed that it did not include a Stan Lee cameo. That's interesting. I mean, obviously that film was a fucking train wreck, so maybe that's why. But, like, that is actually kind of weird. I mean, even, because it's not like he's only ever been in good movies. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Mm.
But the person has a list here. 1989 Captain America movie, 1990s Fantastic Four B movie, Howard the Duck. He hasn't been in any of the Punisher movies, that's interesting, because that's also post X-Men.
Yeah.
And the Captain America short films. So we got any comments on Blade here? Oh yeah, actually there's quite a few. He wasn't in Blade 1 or 2. He was not in X2. Wow, I would have guessed he was in all the X-Men films. He was not in The Punisher. He was not in Blade Trinity, Elektra, Ghost Rider, Punisher Warzone, X-Men Origins, X-Men First Class, Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance, and The Wolverine. So yeah, a decent amount actually. That's more than I would have expected. But still, he's doing pretty well. He's doing pretty well.
He is, and as I said, combined universe. No, actually, now that I mentioned it, Disney now owns all of those universes. So
yeah, I guess that's new since the last time we did a show.
Yeah, Disney bought out all the entertainment assets of Fox, which means they now own the X-Men, and they have partnered with Sony, so they now have Spider-Man. So Disney have it all now.
Yeah. It's, yeah. I mean, obviously the real world, aspect of Disney just being this ever-growing conglomerate, they are going to end up like that company in Wall-E that just makes that, looks like a soda brand, but in the future they own everything.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, obviously we talk about comic book movies on this, so the implications of that are interesting. Hank Hill in the Avengers.
Yes.
Malcolm's mom from Malcolm in the Middle. All these hot properties.
I forgot about Malcolm in the Middle.
I wonder if Marvel, they probably could. I wonder if they could make a good Fantastic Four movie.
Well, the first one was okay.
It wasn't offensive. It was all right.
The sequel was pretty poor, and then the reboot was poor. And they just basically, Disney now own Fantastic Four, and they own the Incredibles. Just make a live action Incredibles, and job done.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I think they could. That just feels to me. There's certain characters that I think we've talked about this that I just don't think they're meant for standalone films. Hulk, obviously, the MCU Hulk was okay, but I think we both kind of agreed we're fine with Hulk just being in the ensemble movies.
Yep.
Fantastic Four, I think they can be in a decent movie, but I think unless they got some really visionary director and screenwriter who adore the franchise and had this grandiose plan, you'd have to imagine it would be in the bottom tier of the MCU. Still have that MCU seal of quality to it, but I don't know that there's a compelling film with these characters to be made. But that's another discussion for another day. So yeah, back to Guardians 2. We're talking very broadly about Marvel here. I don't know that there's a whole bunch really to say about this. I guess the big hook for this one was that first appearance of Ego in any film of any variety, I believe. I might be wrong on that.
Yeah, he's hinted at in Guardians 1 when it's like, oh, your father's not from Earth, and then this is where he actually shows up, and then he dies. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like I like the arc of Peter kind of coming to grips with his dad. I feel like it is a bit on the nose, the whole thing of my dad's back, so I'm going to abandon my friends. Oh no, my dad's bad. I got to go stick to my friends. Yep. That's even the first time I was watching it, I was like, God, it's super on the nose, it's super predictable, but it's fine. I liked it, and I think what really saved it was the very surprising but very pleasantly surprising arc of Yondu as the unlikely father figure, because you don't really think of it in the first film, but it is acknowledged that he basically raised Peter from the age of 8 or 9 or whatever he was.
Yep, and he pretty much serves as a side character. He's like a more of a thorn in the side villain in the first film as opposed to an actual character. So it's nice that they kind of explored some of the side characters here in the sequel as well. Yeah.
And like I said, it was a pleasant twist to it, and obviously when the end rolled around, I was it was one of the better, not that there's not that many, but it was one of the better Marvel deaths I feel like we've had in a while.
The punch lands.
Yeah, it does.
Whereas, for some of these films, even if there's not a death at the end, the ending is just kind of all right, let's move on, we're done. But I think the punch really does land here. It's just this is a somber, touching moment.
Yeah, and Michael Rooker is fantastic, obviously.
And they didn't really have to tie themselves in knots for why he stayed behind on the planet, which is rare. Usually it's just right, we have to contrive 4 reasons for why he can't escape with them. Somebody has to stay behind with a bomb or something.
Yeah. It all worked. He also had, again, talking of that final scene when Rocket gave him the one, the last spacesuit he had, and kind of knowing that he would give it to Quill. I think that's that was implied. Rocket and Yondu had their little arc in this film, which was unexpected. And again, Rocket is this kind of interesting character where he can be this little punchline machine, but he also has this kind of sad backstory where he has no real family, and he's this weird monstrosity that was created in a lab, and he and Yondu kind of bonded over that. Like I said, the final act, I think it sticks the landing. It's one of those weird things where it kind of doesn't stick the rest of it. It's kind of awkwardly dangling around in the air, and then it hits a perfect landing. So that was really great. And Kurt Russell, I thought, was solid. He's a good performer. I thought that the Ego character, I thought that the dynamic between him and Quill was good, but again, it just kind of devolved into he literally just wants to take over the entire universe. That's his motivation. Yep. And so it's really hard to engage in. And it's also a bit wacky that in this one film, smack in the middle of probably a trilogy is probably wrong to call it, but in the second iteration of the film, we find out this character has these magical powers and he immediately loses them.
Yep. And he only loses them so he can't fly off the planet himself. So they can actually they might contrive some reasons there.
Yeah, and it's more so that we have this intriguing character aspect, but it ain't sticking around for another film. Yep. We can't have you ruin an Infinity War.
Yeah, we can't have a literal god come down and just strike Thanos away and well, that's the end of this universe.
Yeah, and I think that's why the middle part of the film just wanes a little bit. It's just Ego's character is fine, but by the numbers in terms of motivation and I said you can see a mile away the direction of Quill being, wooed by his father, even though it's, you're waiting for the reveal. You're waiting for the reveal that Ego's actually an asshole. And the big reunion, it was all very safe.
I really didn't like the decision for him to be like, yeah, and then I killed your mom.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you could have had Quill come to the realization that this guy is going to destroy the world. That's probably good to stop him without being like I killed your mom too, twirl mustache.
Yeah, or even if they wanted to have him be the one who killed her, have something about that confrontation just didn't really suit me. I think he kind of admitted it a bit too freely. It didn't super work for me. And another problem I had with that kind of middle section of the film, and it really hammered it home watching it back again, was the I don't want to say it's not bad CGI. I can't put my finger on it, but something about the film just doesn't look as good as the last one did. It's a very jarring. I think part of it is it's going for more of a natural aesthetic in this one, whereas the last one, it's everything's either in space. Nova looks kind of glossy and a bit uncanny valley, but kind of the dingier, grimier locations they're in the first one, they look great. And in this one, it's like, it's not this bad, so I don't mean to invoke this prematurely, but it's a little Star Wars prequel. Ego's planet, it's all very fake. So, and it's it's a gorgeous setting. It is beautiful. It is technically impressive on some level, but the scenes where they're first appearing on Ego's planet and he's still in their good books and they're just marveling at the nature of it. It's like, oh, this just looks super fake. It just looks like they're standing against a green screen. Super impressive modern day 2017 green screen, but it's still something tough about rendering, like nature realistically, as opposed to the first film kind of rendering grimy noir, punk kind of vibe. It's this one there was a little too much of it, and the theme just made it hard to really blend them in there with the characters.
Yeah, and I think the worst CGI in the film is, when he was unleashing his weird goop on the world.
Yes,
that looked bad. That looked very bad.
Yeah, and that was also that was a weird way to visualize what was happening. And as you say, it wasn't. It was weird conceptually, and in execution, it was also not super. This one was rough around the edges in the way the first one wasn't. I mean, the first big problem with the first one was, it was, for my money anyway, was the kind of MacGuffin-centric plot. They were literally just everyone was fighting for position of an object, but they everything else around it ran so smoothly that you just go, that's fine, it's fine, it doesn't matter, it's it's not going to be perfect. Whereas this, it's like there's just enough little things kind of bothering you about it that need it's a bit wishy-washy, unfortunately. Still great music though.
I was even the score. This film made me appreciate the Guardians of the Galaxy theme song more.
Yes, yeah. I think it's maybe a step or two behind the Avengers main theme, but it's certainly up there with the most kind of recognizable music in this franchise's limited. Obviously they don't have a whole lot of great music, but yeah.
And that score is done by Tyler Bates.
Yes, the Tyler Bates with an S.
Yes. Who, if I watched the WWE UK special that they did in, what was it, May, and JR kept calling Tyler Bates, so maybe he was making that mistake. Possibly,
yeah, possibly. He's a big fan of the MCU, is JR.
Just watching Guardians of the Galaxy. But yeah, did you like the actual soundtrack as much as the first?
Yeah, I did. I think it was one of the aspects where you could make the argument it was as good, if not maybe even a little bit better. I think. I think some maybe some kind of lesser known is probably wrong. I mean, you got Cat Stevens and a couple of other people on there who are super popular, but it's one of the rare ways that I think this film is less on the nose than the first one. First one has an incredible soundtrack, but they're all pretty solid. You could probably if someone told you the general theme of the story and the era from which his mom was from, you could probably put that playlist together yourself. You're doing the film. This one, it's a little less obvious, and I think much better for it. And as you said, some of the original music is great. James Gunn, I think, said that the song that's playing when we first see Yondu with the robot. I think they're robot hookers. I think that's what they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's an original composition. They had like EDM musician or something compose really cool atmospheric kind of thing. You'd almost expect to hear like in the background of like a Blade Runner movie or something. I think he said that was the first kind of full proper track they had composed for these films, which is neat. Maybe by the time Infinity War ends and we start all over again with the MCU, they'll up their score composition efforts, because some of these films have good soundtrack compilations, but the actual great original music is pretty sporadic.
I will say, they had David Hasselhoff singing a song on this film, so...
Yeah, so that's proof right there that they are stepping their game up.
They're trying, and he also cameoed in it, but...
And he was he was Ego, and he was also then in the credits as well, so...
Yep.
I like that like Quill's, that was his kind of idea of the cool dad he wanted was David Hasselhoff, It's a nice touch.
Everyone wanted Knight Rider when they were a child.
Yeah, and you know what? I was actually a big Baywatch fan.
Oh, really?
I have absolutely no idea in hindsight why.
Oh, none idea. No, none at all.
Hey, no, I mean, it's not... I'll say this. I watched a lot of garbage when I was younger, and I go back and I look at it fondly, but... I mean, I was watching Baywatch, like, it was like my favorite show before I was old enough to really appreciate, your Pam Anderson's et al., on that show. For some reason, I just thought it was cool. But, we all respect the Hoff here.
Did you watch the Baywatch movie, the Rock one?
I did not.
I don't think I will either.
I might watch that Jumanji movie, since people are saying it's like not terrible.
My brother, it has like 70% on Rotten Tomatoes, and my brother swore it was good, and I refuse to believe it because The Rock ruins childhoods. That's a known fact.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, he's on a bit of a down streak lately. It seems like Fast and the Furious has been his like only certified hit, but no, that one seems to be doing okay, so that's fine. I do like, by the way, speaking of the music, I liked the Zune at the end of this one.
I was giving out earlier about like sequel setup. I do like each film ending in a way that allows them to have new and different music in the sequel.
And it's funny because it's like, when they obviously must have gotten like approval from like Windows to use the Zune logo and the Zune name and stuff. But did they know when they were like discussing it that it's like going to be a joke that these aliens, like, this is what the humans are all listening to in 2017, which it's like, it's not. That's the joke. But yeah, unless maybe Windows don't. Do they even make Zunes anymore?
I just googled it. They discontinued it in June of 2012.
That I thought as much. I was like, yeah, that definitely feels like, I recall the discontinuation of it because I recall everyone just joking that, like, who has a Zune anymore. But
there was 4 generations of Zune, I'll have you know.
I believe I had a Zune.
Oh.
I think I did have a Zune. Again, like one of my first kind of MP3 players where, much like Quill in this film, I was like, what? 300 songs on one device? And his colour screen with the album art on it? That blew my mind. Nothing wrong with a Zune.
Those were the days.
Yeah, they were alright. Some people are nostalgic for CDs and cassettes, records, 8-tracks. I don't know. There's something mind-blowing about the first MP3 player you ever had.
Yep.
That is pretty damn cool, I gotta say.
You don't have to change the CDs.
No.
So that's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Decent highs, pretty inconsistent.
Yeah, absolutely. But still, if you're... my thing to go by is if you're marathoning these before, Infinity War, you want to skip some and you want to include some others, you can keep this one in. It's worth revisiting.
Yeah. You watch this.
And we have had, obviously, since we last recorded, we have had the Infinity War trailer. The important thing to remember as well, like I'm sure we talked about it on the first Guardians episode, but that was the surprise, like, box office hit of that year. Like, it was just a colossal thing that everyone saw and loved, and so they instantly kind of made that a household name, and now it's going to fuse with the other big household name of the Avengers, and Spider-Man is in it.
Who knows? We're at the stage where they might be able to slip an X-Men cameo in there.
Who knows? You know what? They just might. They could do a really crappy one, like in Suicide Squad, when Jai Courtney and Ezra Miller obviously had a quote-unquote conversation where neither of them were in the same shot at the same time.
Yep.
Just to have, like, oh god, that was so terrible. I remember among the many questions I had after that movie, the first thing I came out of was like, it is so painfully obvious those two people were not on set at the same time. And I also don't think Flash was even, like, on a set, because it really looked like he zipped in front of a green screen. That was bad. So yeah, just pop, Hugh Jackman in there and do the Radioactive Man Simpsons thing where you just edit the conversation together, and you're next thing you know, you're knocking Avatar off the top spot, which I do not think will happen, just for the record. But yeah, I think they may certainly compete with. I think they may nip at the heels of all the previous Avengers films and possibly overtake them, and maybe even nip at the heels of Force Awakens.
I really want Avatar to be knocked off that top spot.
Yeah, I just had no affinity. I thought I was a strong Avatar defender at the time. I thought it was cool, but it's not. It's just it's a cool film to watch once, and that's it. I think most people, even people who like it, are in agreement that it's just like, it's not anything like special or memorable that it deserved that spot. But yeah, it was James Cameron. He was gone for a few years. He came back, and 3D was the thing,
Yeah.
But I mean, nobody wants these sequels. Nobody wants these 5 sequels he's making.
It's so bizarre that, like, this is the highest grossing film of all time. And no one really talks about the film anymore, and no one wants the sequels, but it's still the highest grossing film of all time.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, it's such a perfect summary of how quickly the zeitgeist can change. Because when that came out and it made the most money of all time, people were just like, "Yeah, of course it did. It's Avatar. Yeah, of course." And now it's just like we're 6 or 7 years removed. I'm like, that's like it. It's almost difficult to understand how it even happened. But especially because it's an original IP. I mean, say what you will about the script, but the brand is original, and everything else in the top charts is superheroes and Star Wars and all your favorite shit's coming back, and and that's just this weird thing where it's actually an original idea. So that's very, very odd. But I guess we could probably, I was going to say we won't speak again before the next film, but of course we will. We've got, a month and a half until Black Panther is out?
Yeah, February 16th. So I would assume we do, what's next? Spider-Man?
Spider-Man. Yeah, so I'm very excited to rewatch that. I haven't seen that since the cinema, but good-ass movie, and I'm looking forward to it. And I'm also very much looking forward to Black Panther, obviously, as well. I think since the last time we were on, we've had a trailer for that as well.
Yeah.
That looks neat.
And Black Panther features pretty prominently in the Infinity War trailer as well, so...
Yeah. That Infinity War trailer, I know we're bouncing around topics here as well, but that's a cool trailer. I did kind of get Ultron vibes from it.
There's a lot of, like, smashing, pointless, faceless-looking robots.
A lot of smashing of things, and the big CGI villain who gives the ominous monologue in the trailer. Like, that Ultron trailer was cool as hell, and I was hyped for that movie before it came out. And to be fair, this is made by, filmmakers I'm more on board with, but that trailer dropped the day after I saw Justice League, which was not super good, but it was not super bad either. I didn't have a hot take on Justice League one way or the other. And I watched that trailer, and I was just like, man, I don't need any more of these movies where they team up and they fight CGI things for 40 minutes, and you know what I mean. I know not everything can be Logan, but I'm feeling kind of tired. But yeah.
But then they bring out the old Avengers theme, and you're like, eh.
They're like, yeah, what's that robot Spider-Man suit? Oh.
Oh, we'll talk about that next time. My problems with the robot Spider-Man suit, but that's neither here nor there.
I'm excited.
Before we go, Barry, plugs.
Twitter.com/thebarryled. Got kind of lazy in the last year. New year, I'm going to try and get back in the swing of streaming stuff. You can go to thebarryled.com, which is my blogging site. Got a little rundown of what I'm planning to do on the YouTube channel. Got links to the YouTube channel on there. Some new Hitman content and stuff like that coming up soon. But Twitter is the main place, @thebarryled, for updates on what's going down.